What if the opportunity you prayed for came with a price you weren't prepared to pay? What's up, Book Nerd fam? I am Deandra Smith, your host of So I Read Another Book. Cool child. And this book was Real by Kimmy Wright. So let's get into it. Quick overview. So check it. Real follows Broadway understudy Neva Saint, whose breakthrough comes when director Cannon Holt casts her as the lead in a Harlem Renaissance biopic. Their professional relationship becomes complicated by attraction, career stakes, scandal, and Neva's personal challenges. Neva has spent years waiting for her opportunity, and suddenly, Cannon Holt sees something in her that could change her entire career. So, what happens when the person who can change your career becomes the person you can't stop thinking about, especially when they're your boss? Well, it sounds like an HR and a PR nightmare, in my opinion. But let's talk a little bit about Neva. She believed that she was going to marry her high school sweetheart, and I think she knew in her gut that she was destined for greater, but to go along with what was happening in her life, she was willing to sacrifice her dreams. Because mind you, she's like 16, 17. So she's willing to sacrifice her dreams to marry her high school sweetheart, have a couple of kids, and instead of going to college out of state, she was just going to go to community college. And instead of being on the big screen, she probably would have settled for doing like some in-town productions. That's what she thought her life was going to look like. But fate didn't have it that way. And I will say, along with some other challenging circumstances that took place that knocked her off this particular path. And although it was awful as to how she got on the path that she is on, I will say that in the end, it all panned out. There were times, though, that she felt like she did not belong in the room. And I think there's a lot to be said about imposter syndrome. I was having this conversation the other day with some of my business friends, and there was an interview that I saw with Fawn Weaver, and I'm not quoting this correctly. I'm just going to give you the gist of what she was saying. But Fawn Weaver was saying that we as Black people come from kings and queens who ended up being enslaved. And of those who were enslaved, they survived all that they went through. And we are the descendants of them. We are the descendants of those who went through heinous events. Not only that, not only did they go through it, they overcame. I truly believe that everything that we see around us was created by us. And these are the types of people that we come from. People who were strong beyond belief, who made a way out of no way, who were brilliant, who were innovative. That's where we come from. And so it is interesting sometimes when we have this imposter syndrome. And ever since Fawn Weaver said that, I always think about, why do we act like we do not belong in the rooms that we have been placed in? If we are there, more than likely we are there by our own merit. And if we are there by our own merit, we most definitely belong. So those were some of the things that Neva struggled with within the book. I think another thing that she struggled with was finally being seen whenever she started dating Cannon, and just how this opportunity fell into her lap, because she was an understudy, as I mentioned before. And so it wasn't like she was always at the forefront. But I will say, when the time came for her to step into that role, homegirl let it rip. Okay. I mean, everything that was in her came out. And listen, sometimes, things be in you and on you, and there's nothing that can stop your shine or your light or your force or whatever the case may be. There's also the question of whether or not Neva wanted success or did she just want validation that she was good enough? And low key, I think that she would have been happy with just the validation that she was good enough. As it stands, she got both within the novel. So that was amazing. I absolutely love this novel, y'all, just by the way. But I digress. How many of us are waiting for someone to give us permission to become who we already are? It was almost like she was, as I said, waiting for someone to tell her that she was good enough to be there. And how many of us do that to ourselves? I feel like I'm talking to myself right now. To become who we already are within. But let's jump into Cannon Holtz. Now, Cannon Holt is a problem. All right. He is talented. He is powerful. Not only is he talented, he knows he's talented. He is powerful. He walks into a room and people, his very aura and presence kind of stops people in their tracks, which I love. I love a guy like that. He is disciplined, so things weren't just handed to him. He worked for the things that he has. As you read their story, you find that he is protected, or not protected, he is protective. He is complicated, but I also think that once you get to know him and peel back the layers, he doesn't seem so complicated. It's really when he's able to be vulnerable, then I feel like you are able to peel the onion back easily. And he's also the person in this novel who has significant professional power over Neva, which is why I had mentioned the HR and PR problem at the top of the podcast. Now, in the book, did I trust Cannon? I actually did. I think it's because as you're reading the book, you're able to see how he is as a person. You see how he treats his mom. You see how he treats his friends. And I feel like the friends that he has, although they know that he's powerful, they really hold him accountable for his actions. And even if they don't come out and say it sometimes, they are unbothered by how he acts in certain situations. It's just like, he gonna have to get over it because like I'm not about to kowtow to him and whatever his feelings are at this time. So I don't think that he was too complicated. So I did trust him. I did understand his attraction to Neva. The way that they described her, she sounds like a beautiful woman. She sounds caring, like she just sounds like a good person inside and out. So I definitely understood his attraction to her. And also I feel like she wasn't the norm of what he had been around this entire time because he's in the film industry, and I think there was a level of pretense that he was always running into, or a level of clout chasing that women would do or would pursue in pursuit of him. And I think for him, Neva was a breath of fresh air because she really didn't have anything to lose per se. Within the book, I do feel like that Cannon was protecting her career and protecting himself. I think there was, as you're reading the book, there's a question that kind of niggles at the back of your mind on if he is going to throw her under the bus per se, or that could be a question, I guess you could say. I don't think that I really thought that he would, because it really felt like the love that he had for her was genuine. Although, the love came quickly, it is also a novel, and that's something that we have to remember too. This is fiction. But even in that, it really felt like he truly loved her. Yeah. Now, I do think that him being the director made the relationship problematic from an HR or even a PR viewpoint. I will say that it didn't seem, to me, they did a great job, Neva and canon of not bringing their relationship to the forefront. They didn't bring it to the forefront until they had to. So I feel like they both kept it professional. I feel like he did an awesome job of not treating her any differently than he treated anybody else. And I feel like she did an awesome job of coming to work and just being a straight professional. So I thought they were both doing the jobs that they were meant to do as they should have done them without their relationship being problematic. I do, and there was in the book they talked about whether or not they should wait to break their relationship to everybody once the filming was over. And at the time, I did feel like that was the right decision because he was her boss. So I I think it was it Monk who felt like he shouldn't even pursue anything until the film was over, but I don't think that either of them felt either of them felt like that they could have waited for the entire production to be over before they tried to pursue this relationship. But they did have some help too, which I thought was kind of cute. I will say too, in this book, Kanan is not your typical romance hero, in my opinion. I think there was a level of vulnerability that we saw in him that you don't always see in a guy. Like the level of vulnerability was there. Like the hurt that he felt in the novel, the concern that he felt for Neva was very palpable. The protection that he felt, especially when he was talking to her family, was something that we as readers could feel throughout this novel. One of the other things that I loved about this book is that this book too focused on the Harlem Renaissance, which I also read With Love from Harlem, and that focused on the Harlem Renaissance as well. And within this book, they talked about Desi Blue, who was a Black jazz artist, and her story connected to the contemporary characters of the Harlem Renaissance. And I do feel like stories like these matter because we don't hear about some of these unsung heroes. Like, the stories matter because Black artists' contributions have been forgotten. They're really not remembered in American history. There's a relationship between the arts and the resistance. There's something to be said about Black women and artistic visibility. And then there's the bigger picture within this novel is that the significance of telling Black stories through film, and with he and his friends being Black and bringing this story to life, it really pushed this novel to the next level. And it just makes you wonder, like, how many Desi Blues are there in our history that we still don't know about? And I feel like the answer is plenty. Like you will find in one of my other podcasts that we're going to explore Hazel Scott. And I know that there are countless others. And if you know anything about me, I love documentaries. And so y'all know I'm going to go into a deep dive into Desi Blue as well. But from what we learn about her in this novel, her life was layered in so many ways. And so I just want to dig into it. So the question too that this book lends itself to is, can we really have it all? Can we have love, career, family? Can we find ourselves continually? Because we are ever growing, success, and is there sacrifice in there as well? In this case, Neva isn't simply choosing between a man and a career. She's trying to find out what kind of woman she wants to become. And I feel like by the end of the novel, she does find that. One of the other things that I love about this book is the theme around health and vulnerability. So Neva's health becomes part of her story. It's rather than something completely separate from her ambitions. The novel explores chronic illness alongside its romance and career storyline. To me, this tracks in anything written by Kennedy Ryan. She's going to explore an illness or something that would encourage conversation. To me, she does a great job of creating scenarios in which we can empathize with the character or at least commiserate with whatever is happening with them in the book. In this case, it is a chronic illness. And for me, as I was reading this, I totally understood where she was coming from. I have Graves' disease. And so some of the things that Neva was feeling, I felt too. And one of the questions that I thought about is, and I always think about this, is what happens when your body doesn't always cooperate with the life you're trying to build? And for Neva, we know that, she did a lot of dancing. There was so much happening within her body, the stress that her body was going through, that her health was vulnerable. And in turn, she became vulnerable too. And the vulnerability affected her in different ways. She didn't want to ask for help because she didn't want to seem weak, or she didn't want to seem like she was being a burden more so than anything. I loved how Cannon came in, and to me, he was just right on time with how he handled the situation. At first, she did not want to let people help her, but in the end, her hairdresser was there for her always. And then the way that Cannon responded to me was top tier. I mean, it was just top tier. He was there from even with him taking her to the hospital himself. Okay. That man was like, not on my watch, not on my dime, and I don't care what anybody has to say about it. The story to me says a lot about strength, not only with Neva and how she pushed through and, worked with her doctors to overcome some of the challenges and setbacks that she had, but also the strength of Cannon to say, I don't care how long it takes for her to get well. This is Desi Blue. And if I have to go toe to toe with exec producers, I'm going to do that to make sure that, one, she is well taken care of. That was first and foremost. And two, the story that I've envisioned is going to get out there. Y'all, this was just such a good book. I highly recommend it. But let's get into the hot takes. So hot take number one, Cannon and Neva should not have gotten together. Now, that is not something that I think. Now, realistically, from a PR, HR perspective, perhaps that, yes, they probably should have waited until the film was done. But I think that these two really love each other, and it was going to be inevitable anyway. Hot take number two, Neva's career should have come before her relationship. In the end, I don't think that either is true. I think that she, in this case, is able to have a career and a relationship. He was like the bonus because she was in the career, like she got her big break. And then to me, Cannon was like the bonus for her. Hot take number three, Cannon wasn't just attracted to Neva, he was inspired by her. And I think I do agree with that statement. I think that Cannon was inspired with the fact that she's just so her. She's her. And not only that, she has this undeniable talent that she doesn't go around bragging about. And low key, I think it's because she doesn't realize how talented she is. And so that could be a part of it too. Hot take number four, the story of Desi Blue was just as important as the love story. I absolutely love when authors infuse historical like things or stories into their story. It makes for a very interesting novel to me. And I think it's just because I love documentaries. And so things like this adds to why I like a book. And I don't necessarily have to have all of the books that I read have some sort of historical element to it. But I do like a good book that's infused well. And Kennedy Ryan, she did her thing on this one. My hot take number five, Neva's biggest battle wasn't Hollywood. It was believing she belonged there. I think Neva had a lot of battles in this book. Not only did she have to battle with Hollywood, but more importantly, what was going on in her family. To me, that was more important than what was happening in Hollywood. Like, take her home first. So what did this book make me think about? It made me think about delayed dreams. Luckily for her, she didn't have to delay her dreams. Circumstances did that for her. And though they weren't the best, as I said before, it did push her into a realm that she otherwise would not have been a part of. Now, I think that were delayed to a certain extent, but I also think that her life went in the trajectory that it was supposed to go, and things happened in the way that they should have happened. I do believe that. One of the other things this book made me think about was being seen. Cannon did a great job of seeing her. Monk did a great job of seeing her. And because of that, that's we have our Desi Blue. It also made me think about reinventing yourself because I feel like she had to do that on multiple occasions. And in her particular instance, I feel like part of the reinvention also required forgiveness and required deep reflection, in my opinion. Y'all tell me what you think, though. It also made me think about taking up space. It made me think about starting over as well. Taking up space was a big one, though, too. And I feel like you can look at it in different ways. Taking up space in her dance. I remember when the dance instructor let her know to really throw herself into the character and work with her one on one to make that happen. And then just taking up space in the world, just anyway. And I don't think that we do that enough, specifically as women. I just don't. But y'all let me know what you think. So here are some of my questions for you. I have 5. Would you choose love or your dream if you had to choose? It's question number 1. Question number 2, did you trust Cannon and Neva's relationship? I did. Question number 3, did Neva know her worth before Cannon saw it? I'm interested to see what you all say about that. Question 4, who was your favorite character besides Cannon and Neva? I loved Neva's hairdresser. I also love Cannon's mom. Like the gems that she dropped, they were so on point. I truly I enjoyed her a lot. And then my last question is, what would you have done if you were Neva? And I feel like that's a loaded question. You can answer that however you would want to. In closing, we will call this segment The Last Page. What did this book teach me? What did this book make me feel? And who should read this book? So for me, it's believing that you deserve it. It's believing that whatever room you're in, you belong in that room. It's also allowing, we're talking about what this book taught me, allowing yourself to be vulnerable when you have people there who care for you and leaning into their strength to propel you forward. This book made me feel I it made me feel seen, honestly, and I think it's because she has a chronic illness and it is an autoimmune disease, and so do I because I have Graves. And so some of the things that she was feeling and some of the things that she said internally, so have I. And it was just one of those books that I could relate to. I feel like anyone who, if you like romance, Kennedy Ryan is always good for that. This book is for you. If you are into, there's always something that Kennedy Ryan writes about that is going to make you think. So if you're one of those people who love to have a discussion surrounding a particular topic, this is the book for you. Kennedy Ryan's books always lends themselves to great discussion for book clubs. If you're in a book club, this is the book for you. If you're into documentaries or a historic, like a flair of historical fiction, this is also the book for you. Well, you all, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Book Nerd fam, that's it for now. But remember, we're creating lifelong readers, one book and one conversation at a time. I do have a few quick announcements. Follow me on social media to see where Book Nerd Fan will be from week to week. You can follow me on at Book Nerd Fam, one word. Check out my TikTok shop for bookish merch and check out booknerdfam.com to purchase any books mentioned today. And as always, take some time to read today. I'll see y'all soon.